This week, I ran out to the Dollar Tree and I grabbed a couple of their little wood pallets, different sizes and shapes, and I made some of the cutest DIY decor for you guys. I can't wait for you to see it, so let's jump in. On the first DIY, I grabbed one of their hanging little pallets, and I like the size of this one. It's really nice to have around for DIYs. I'm going to grab my DIY paint in the color beadboard, and I'm going to give my palette 2 full coats all over. I want to welcome each and every one of y'all to the video. I am so glad and thankful that you stopped in to craft and spend a little time with me today. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I would love for you to consider doing so. I have a lot of new content that's coming out, and I don't want you to miss any of it. I grabbed these leftover transfers that I have. A company called Essential Stencils sent these to me last year, and I believe these are called Rustic Summer Flowers, but I'm just going to cut a couple of these pieces off because I don't need much. I'm going to put my first little piece of this transfer down on the bottom left-hand side. And if you've never used a transfer, they are so easy. You just peel that top sheet off from the backing and you lay it down wherever you want it to go. And then you use either one of these little tools that I'm using, or you can use a credit card. And in a lot of cases, I just use my fingernail. And you just scratch over it and you pull that top sheet off, and then your transfer is going to be stuck to whatever surface you're applying it to. And even though my palette board has those openings in between the slats, it's going to be perfectly fine whenever I peel it off here, and you'll see just how beautiful it's going to look. Next, I'm going to take this single pinkish color flower and I'm going to place it up on the top right hand side, and I'm going to do the exact same thing like I did on the bottom. When you put transfers on, it's really repetitive and it's very easy to place them on. And a transfer is a great way to make any project just instantly beautiful. And if you'll notice, I am applying this one with my fingernail. To me, sometimes it's just the easiest way to get the job done. I'm going to add 2 more of these little flowers. These are, I believe, lazy-eyed Susans. Isn't that what they're called? Lazy Susan? Lazy-eye Susan? I'm not really sure what, is it Lazy Susan or Lazy-eye Susan? Well, anyways, I put one on the top left and the bottom right corner. And this week, I found a gold mine. A few years ago, I had purchased this very napkin, I believe off of eBay. And ever since then, I have searched high and low, and I'm not joking in any way. I have searched for this same napkin because I think this is the prettiest napkin I've ever come across, and I could just never find it again. And a lot of you guys have asked me where I got this napkin over the years, and I've always had to tell you I can't find it anymore. Well, I'm going to leave the lady's shop down below in the description box so that you guys can go and hit her up for some napkins too. I'm just going to cut off the small piece that I need from this, and I'm actually going to decoupage this onto a thick piece of white cardstock. I know that's kind of crazy, but just stick with me. It'll make sense in a minute. I'm getting off those sneaky little layers like my friend Brandy calls it, because guys, the layers on the back of these napkins, sometimes they're sneaky. You think they're off of there, but they're not. Now this one had 1 layer, and most napkins have 2. And the way that I can always tell if I've got all my sneaky little layers off is if you hold it up and it looks absolutely sheer. But a good way to get it off is to put a little bit of glue on your 2 fingers, and it will help to separate those sneaky little layers. And I knew that this one had another layer underneath, and it was sneaky. I'm just going to use my glue stick to put this down. You guys that follow me know that this is my favorite way to decoupage anything, just because it's so easy and you never get wrinkles. There's no wet, goopy mess. I'm telling you, it's the easiest way. And something as thin as a napkin, it's going to stick and it's not going to go anywhere. I just start off in the middle and work my fingers outward, and it does not have one single wrinkle in it. I have a mold that I made beforehand, and it's from the IOD mold called Le Cloche. And it has 3 different little cloches on it, and I think it has a bird cage on it if I'm not mistaken. But I like to make my molds up ahead of time so I don't have to stop in the middle of my projects. I'm going to place this over my bird, and I'm just using a pencil to kind of mark out where I need to cut this off at. Now, normally when I decoupage, I don't like to have any kind of straight edges, but since this is going to go behind this cloche, it needs to be precise. And by the way, I get my molds from Lori at Milton's Daughter, and I leave her information down below in case you want to try out any of the IOD products or the DIY paint or the Pentart paint. A lot of the stuff that you see me use comes from Milton's Daughter. I just used my little hand sander to kind of get that rough edge off. And of course, I'm going to place this down with my handy dandy glue stick, and it's going to hold it perfectly. And I did put 1 or 2 little drops of hot glue just because that cardstock was so thick. Now, my mold was kind of curved for some reason, and that's an easy fix. You just apply like a heat gun to it, and you can just kind of put a little pressure on it, and it will straighten right back out, because I needed it to be flat to go on the front of my little bird. I'm going to apply my little cloche over the top of my bird with just a little bit of hot glue. It's going to be sufficient. I normally use the Titebond Quick and Thick wood glue, but for a project like this, it's going to hold perfectly. And I just kind of press it down. I'm going to use some glossy varnish because if you notice, the bird is not perfectly, you can't see it well. But the thing is, when you make a mold with this clear resin that I got from Lori at Milton's Daughter, you put the varnish on it and it's perfectly see-through. All that cloudiness is gone. Now we're coming in with the Pentart wax paste, one of my favorite products. I get these from Lori at Milton's Daughter. And this is kind of like a rub and buff, but it's a little bit cheaper and I like it better. And I've never found this specific color in the rub and buff. It's a bronze color and I love it. It's my favorite and I use it on everything. I'm just going to apply it with my finger. I'm going to go over all those little ridges because the IOD sisters do a great job with their molds. They go the extra mile and add all these beautiful, gorgeous details. And I'm telling you, when you rub your finger over it with this wax paste, it just brings your piece to life. And then I'm going to shade it in with this little shader that I have. I have some leftover brown in it, and I think it gives it a nice little touch all around the edges. And I hope you like this first one.
Come to the water where you will find peace. Take a step into the river. Get down on your knees.
On our second DIY, we're going to grab 2 of this type of pallet boards, and I'm going to place these together with this wood glue from the Dollar Tree. This stuff is really good and I actually like it. I'm going to use that and hot glue, but you don't want them to mix, so I'm just going to place them where they're not going to touch each other. And I find it easier to put these pieces like this together with with it flipped over so that I can actually see and make sure that I'm lining it up right. And if any glue squishes out, just wipe it off with your fingers. Now I'm going to take this little box. This is one of the little crates from Dollar Tree also. I'm going to do the same thing with the wood glue and the hot glue combination, making sure that they don't touch. And I'm going to place my little box right on the bottom of this. I want it to where my little crate will just stand up right. And then I'm going to take my Waverly Antique Wax. Now my wax is very, very watered down. I probably have about 10% of the wax and 90% water because I like it really watered down. It just makes the stain lighter. And I've had this bottle for like 3 years, and you guys know I use it a lot. I just keep adding water to it, and I can really make my product go very far that way. So anyways, I'm just going to cover up this whole thing with the Waverly Antique Wax, the little crate also. And then after I get all of the wax put on, I run over it real quick with the baby wipe just to kind of blend everything in and make everything look good. Now when my piece is dried, I grabbed my Spanish moss and I picked it up at the Hobby Lobby. This stuff is so messy though. I just kind of tear it apart, and I have 2 little candles placed in my crate. And these candles, I had made these earlier. They're little black battery operated candles, and I used some rice paper that I got from Brandy at the DIY Struggle. I'll leave her information down below too in case you want to grab some of her paper. Now I have this cute little butterfly. I got these off of Amazon, and they are magnetic. So I'm just going to grab one of these little round magnets that I picked up at the Dollar Tree, and it will hold my butterfly on wherever I want it to. I put my magnet on the back in one of those little areas where the pallet is open, and it's going to hold on to my butterfly, and I can move it around to wherever I want it. I put it up in the right-hand corner, and this piece is as good as done.
Come to the mountain while taking in the view. You will find that life is greater than you knew.
The third DIY is just as easy as the other two. We're going to take 2 of these smaller little pallets that kind of look like coasters, and then we're going to take 2 of the ones that we just used in the last DIY. I'm going to take all the stickers off of these things, and then we're going to put them together. I'm going to use the Dollar Tree wood glue again. I'm really liking this stuff, guys. You definitely need to get you some of this stuff. I'm actually thinking about using this instead of the Type Bond Quick and Thick because, I mean, it's way cheaper and it's just as good in my opinion. Here you can see I'm just going to put hot glue on a couple of these little spots and then my wood glue in the other spots. We don't want them canceling each other out. And I'm just going to stick this little coaster-like piece. We'll just call it a coaster, okay? We're going to stick those on the sides, and we are going to put the little pallet parts in the front. This is just basically going to be like a larger size little crate. I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side with the wood glue and the hot glue and put that front piece on. And then I'm going to flip it over and just kind of give it a little bit of time, just a few seconds, so that it will hold up real well. And I definitely want my crate to have a bottom, so we're going to use that exact same type of pallet board, and we're going to do the same combination of the hot glue and the wood glue, and we're just going to put it on the bottom and hold it there for a second so it can get a good bond. I'm going to use DIY paint in the color Faded Burlap. It is becoming one of my favorite colors. It's just a very neutral, dark, beigey, like a coffee cafe kind of color, and I'm really liking this for the living room area and such. So I'm just going to color all of these palette pieces, and I'm also going to do the baby wipe technique like I did with the antique wax. And by doing that, it almost makes your paint become like a stain. It kind of lightens it up, but when you run over it with that baby wipe, it just gets it in all the places you want it to go. And don't forget to do the top and the bottom so that we make it one nice little cohesive piece. I wanted to place something on the front of this, and at first I had grabbed this IOD mold and I was thinking about doing like some decoupage and such, but then I found these cute little bird stickers that I had forgotten about. These are from Temu, And I'm just going to make a couple little pencil marks around this so that I know exactly where I'm going to place it at. I'm going to take my white paint, which is called beadboard. It's also a DIY paint color that I get from Lori at Milton's Daughter. And I'm roughly just going to make kind of like a little circle in that area where I had just did the pencil marks, because I want my bird to have white behind it. When you put white behind something like this, or even decoupage or whatever, it just makes your image really pop. I pulled the back off and popped the sticker down. I have another little mold here that I believe just came from like a Temu mold, and it is almost like a tiny little picture frame. I'm going to paint that with that color beadboard and let it dry, and we're going to place it right over the top of our little bird. I simply just used hot glue to place this down because I felt that since it's such a small little piece to put on, that it's going to be plenty enough for what I need. And then out she comes with the Pentart wax again, my beautiful bronze color. I'm going to do that finger technique that I love so well. I'm just going to put some on my fingers and rub around all the details, and it's going to make it pop and gorgeous. There's really not much that you have to do. Just put a couple of these little palette pieces together, and man, they turn out cute every time. I'm going to go around the edges with this bronze color, and then once again I'm going to go over the edges with my little sanding sponge, or my little sponge shader. I'm not really sure what this thing's called. A shader? I don't know. But I'm just going to go around the edges with this, and then I'm going to grab my Spanish moss. And once again, I was saying that I get my Spanish moss from Hobby Lobby. It's a huge bag, and that stuff from Dollar Tree smells like straight up cat pee. I don't like it at all, and so for me, it's well worth to get it from Hobby Lobby, and it goes a long way. I'm just going to use these little flowers that I got from Temu. They're very small and they're very appropriate for a piece like this. I'm just going to cut them off and pop them in the top, and this is so adorable, and who would have known? It's Dollar Tree, baby.
You're broken and you're shattered at the point of no return. You pick up the pieces and you let the bridges burn. So come to the water.
I really do appreciate each and every one of y'all that came my way today, and I hope that you enjoyed these simple Dollar Tree projects. If you did, please hit the like button because it really helps me out on YouTube. And guys, did you know that you can just touch on my face right here and become a part of our channel? You sure can, and I would love for you to do that. Also, there's another video right here that is very similar to this one. If you just tap on it, it'll take you there in just a minute. God bless you and your families.